Well, I think the interesting thing for me about the way countries use technology is the way it's not just about public services, it's the way it changes citizens' lives and the businesses that operate within that country. So what I see time and time again, as a country uses technology to provide better and more advanced services to their citizens, the companies who provide those technology solutions to government also provide them to other customers around the world. So it has a huge economic uplift for a country, not only in terms of public services become cheaper, but also you get economic growth from those organisations. Well, I think the high-level expert group created by the World Bank, I think it's a huge privilege, first of all, to be invited onto that group. But what interests me is I found, from a UK perspective, I learn a tremendous amount by going to visit other countries, to look and learn in terms of how they do things. So, for example, India do tremendous things in terms of technology, in terms of rural communities, the way that Indonesia is putting in global broadband networks, the way that South Africa has dealt with in terms of low-income families. So the important thing for me is the more and more we can share each other's experiences, the more and more we can grow the overall world to grow services for their citizens. So it's also a brilliant opportunity to deal with other people around the world, from Canada and America, from India, and even Moldova, because even coming to Moldova, I can learn from what Moldova are doing. The first thing I would say is you can spend your life chasing technology. And I see few people around the world trying to keep up to date with the technology. The problem is it's moving so fast because it's so innovative and so dynamic. The issue is not about following every latest technology. It's about choosing the technology that's right for your country, your citizens and your businesses. And that's a slightly different model than always getting the latest shiniest bit of technology available to man. Yes, I think leadership, whether it be in a government or in a private sector organisation, is hugely important. And there used to be an adage, if it's not important to the boss, it's not important to the staff. And it doesn't matter whether the boss is Prime Minister or the Chief Executive of an organisation, he or she has to drive the transformational agenda. Because if it's important to them, it'll be important to their staff, and things will happen much faster and much better. It really comes back to what happens around the world. So the countries I tend to work with, there's about 40 different countries. There's some core things that citizens get. First of all, they get choice of how they want their services provided to them. In the old days, you must go to a government office when the office was open, where that office was located. In the transformational world, in the technology world, in the e-government world, many of those services are provided online, which are convenient to citizens, it's convenient to business. And they can do that at a time that suits them. It also gives citizens and businesses more options. So, for example, most people don't have a lot of time on their hands to go and queue in an office somewhere. So they can choose whether they're passing an office, or they can phone up to get their service, or they can go online. So the main thing for me is about choice to the citizen, choice to the business, how they do business with government. That gives them time back, and they can use that time productively in terms of growing their business. Well, the UK has been using technology for over 30 years. So we have a complete history and I guess legacy in terms of how we've used technology. And some things we've done, exceptionally well, and we've had our challenges like every other organisation using technology around the world. But the key thing for the UK government that I've observed, and I've only been in government for 6 years, is always watching, in essence, how the country is changing, how the demands of citizens are changing, how the world is changing, because technology has to follow that. One of our Prime Ministers made it very clear we want 95% of all of our services to citizens online within a 4-year period. So a very clear, visionary statement which everyone got behind to make happen. But of course, it's not just what happens at a country. So the way that you do things in health will be different to the way that you do things in education or in crime or in transport. And each one of those has to have its own vision and its powerful leadership and its own objectives and its technology. So vision at a country level, hugely important, driven by the most senior people, but also you need visions and strategies within the local areas and the departments as well. Okay, the first thing always, and we've touched on this before, is leadership. Somebody at the top needs to want to make this happen. The second thing is you need an implementation team to make it happen. It's not going to happen by people just doing it by accident. Somebody and a small team of people at the centre, close to the Prime Minister, has to be able to show people how to do things. The third thing is you've got to do it. And that's not necessarily about big things. This is about trying things out. This is about making progress in a number of small areas. It's about focusing on things that really matter. So the key thing is, what I see time and time again, is that people can tie themselves up talking about vision, talking about strategy, rather than saying, actually, let's do some of this and we will learn as we do it. And if I could just cheat and add a fourth one in, I think the private sector is hugely important. So in the UK, we're in central government, the federal government, we're about 65% outsourced to the private sector. So we use the private sector extensively. Their knowledge, their expertise, their innovation, and sometimes their money. They help fund some of this for us. So I would say those four things are things that I would say to any country, not just Moldova, but certainly Moldova. That's where I'd focus my energy. I live in the rural economy in terms of the UK, so I'm always, being a country boy, impressed when I see lots of green fields, lots of agriculture, because I think that's where many countries around the world started their lives from, in agricultural. So flying in, I saw lots of agriculture, and I think that's always a very, very positive step. But what I've also noticed coming into the city is it's very vibrant, it's very active, and from a people perspective, there's always a smile on their faces. You go to some countries and they look a little bit, unhappy. Moldovans, I've just seen happy, smiling people. I think that's good.